looking back this far, over 60 years, I'm kind of surprised how sad it is. I guess I was sadder then than I was later. I mean, I think people overestimate the happiness of youth. You know, that young people sometimes are very sad and unsure of what's going to happen to them in life. And I think that maybe shows in this piece. It's very melancholy and rather dreamy and nostalgic.
The next work I'm going to play is from the set of Nocturnes given to me by George Rousseau, written by his father. And the whole story is quite interesting, because when I started collecting Nocturnes for the first CD, I looked at many composers who are already known, and I had piles of music that I've been looking at for a few years before I released the first album, which was in 2006. And I had in mind a set of modern pieces or more contemporary sounding pieces as an answer to the first CD, or as maybe part of a series. And George and a number of other composers seem to have just magically appeared with these sets of nocturnes and this music. And your father wrote, tell us about the history of your father's work with these pieces.
A couple of words. Okay, I don't want to go too far because the music tells more than the words do. But just to put the background, first of all, you have to frame it in terms of something Russian. Okay, you come back from a great tradition of Russian music, but my father was Ukrainian, and he sang. And he did music extensively in singing. He actually took lessons in Paris from Shalyapin in singing, and I remember as a kid we would be driving through the Lincoln Tunnel. It was just fantastic. So the melody was very much a part of him. And what surprised me as he developed more and more music, much later part of his life, was the spontaneous romantic eruptions, I would say, that came in the music, because it was very explosive, I was telling you, and sometimes extremely melodic. It actually drove me crazy in the beginning, because I didn't like it at that time. I was very much into Chopin and Rachmaninoff and Rimsky-Korsakov and all of those classical pieces, growing up in New York with Vladimir Horowitz around the corner. And to see this music as the years went on and people listened to it, through them I learned to appreciate it even more. Because there are people that just love to hear that music and they say, oh my goodness, this brings me back to life. A little bit like the previous ones that we had before, but more explosive. But he has those fantastic moments. And later on I can tell you all about what happened, didn't happen to him in the Revolution, how he essentially started off as a pianist more seriously in Berlin, and was taking lessons from Wilhelm Kempff at that time, and was playing, I guess, the second or third, the C major sonata. And on page 3, he lost control of his memory and walked off that stage forever. That was the end of it. But look what happened. I'll wait for you. Wonderful.
1994. Thanks for reminding me. I was 24, so I was living in New York. I was halfway through my doctoral program at Manhattan School of Music. Piano pieces were not really, at the time and place where I was, considered a demonstration of any great skill. You know, there's sort of almost like a starting point. But being a pianist, I love writing piano music and particularly nocturnes. So obviously influenced by Chopin and John Field. I was just fascinated with this idea, this night piece. It's sort of a little bit like a lullaby, you know, haunting and yet beautiful, and there are different shades of this. And then Chopin always has this middle part that usually has some other contrasting dramatic element. So in my piece, I've got a sort of basic theme, the nocturne theme, if you like, which undergoes a series of mutations as the piece goes on, harmonic mutations and involutions, and creeps progressively out of the haunted into a more, let's say, I wouldn't say triumphant, but a sense of accomplished place, so somewhere more relaxed. So out of the minor major 7 into a mixolydian, I think it is, finally, and a bunch of chromatic alterations along the way. And then there's the second theme, which I guess I call it's kind of a love theme. This falling figure, you'll hear, and that also undergoes transformations and then becomes a sort of a keystone towards the end, which was also influenced by Messiaen.
Next, I may need a little bit of assistance here. There are a lot of turns because this is just a big, wonderful, incredible piece. And we spoke about the Nocturnes project just a little over a year ago, right? And he went home on this rainy night and began to compose this nocturne. Really beautiful music. It defies genre classification, although you'll hear some jazz harmony in here. I love playing it. I hear this piece often when I'm walking and doing things. It's really special music. And some of the other composers who contributed to the project also write with some jazz influence in their language too. And one or two of the pieces actually have improvisation. If you want to say a few words about it, please, Colin, that'd be great.
Well, when she told me her vision for the project, I just was so inspired to hear such an illustrious collection of esteemed composers that I revere. And so and it was an especially moody, rainy day in January, which for us is welcome. And the storms were blowing through, and it was really blowing through in kind of 3 parts, which is how the piece took shape. I really wanted to personalize this in some way, where she was, you know, when you're writing for somebody to perform something, they're kind of hovering over your shoulder.
Right. But at least I did want it to be a nocturne, and I guess I I guess I was sadder at night than I was during the day. I hadn't met my wife yet.